We are in the last session of the company's law and secretarial practice. In the preparation of secretarial standards, SSB may constitute working groups, the corporate, the organization. So what is that you should do is, you should always have a check. The ICSI, which is also called as the Institute of Company Secretary in India, hello everybody, a warm welcome to one and all. I'm Vidhyaashram from the Department of Commerce and Management in Vidhyaashram First Grade College, the Temple of Excellence. Welcome to all the students here. We are in the last session of the company's law and secretarial practice. Here in this session, I'm going to teach you something called SSB. Now, what is this SSB? That is the standard. Now, what exactly the standard is all about? The Secretarial Standard Board. Now, this board was actually taken into consideration in 1999 itself, but it got its permission only in the year 2000. That is, we started to adapt this board in the year 2000. Now, here we need to understand why we are supposed to go with it. The ICSI, which is also called as the Institute of Company Secretary in India, that actually formulates the standard board. The reason for it is, the first one is the need for integration, harmonization and standardization of diverse secretarial practices. That's the reason the origin of SSB was actually started. And when we go with SSB, please understand, it was constituted in the year 2000. I told you about this. 1999 itself they were planning about it, but they only started with it in the year, that is constituted in the year 2000, to prevalent in the corporate sectors with the objectives of formulating secretarial standards. So you should always have a secretarial standards, and this is done by the Secretarial Standard Board. Now, scope and functions of SSB. Now, what is the scope and functions? The scope here is what? To identify the areas, that is to identify the areas in which secretarial standards need to be issued by the Council of ICSI and formulate such standards. SSB also clarify issues, if any, arising out of such standards and issue guidance notes for the benefit of members of ICSI, that is the benefit to the members of ICSI, corporates and the stakeholders. And functions have given here. There are 4 functions which they always go with. The first one is formulating secretarial standard. They need to actually formulate what? They need to have the formulation of secretarial standards. Clarifying issues arising out of secretarial standards. Now, whenever you have any issues, you are supposed to sort it out. That is what the function of the SSB is. And then issuing guidance notes. That is what the SSB main thing is. See here also, guidance notes, whom all you are supposed to issue. That is, first one you are supposed to issue to the members of ICSI. Then B, that is you are supposed to issue for the corporate, to the corporate, and C, to the stakeholders. So these are the people whom you are supposed to issue the notes. Reviewing and updating the secretarial standards guidance notes to the periodic interval. So every time whenever there is any update, you are supposed to update it. You are supposed to give a thought about why we are supposed to update. If it is really needed, then you are supposed to update it, and then you should notify each and every person about the SSB's new things. Next one we have is the need of secretarial standard. Why is that we need secretarial standard? The first one here is, companies follow diverse secretarial practice. That is, they follow their own secretarial practices, and therefore there is a need of integrate, harmonize and standardize such practice so as to promote uniformly and consistency should be maintained. So each and every company, they follow their own secretarial practices, but when we have secretarial standard, what happens is all the companies, they follow one kind of a uniform practice, and that one kind of a uniform practice is actually very good. And the authorities like ICSI, even everybody, they are the one who will actually set all these things. Now what happens when you have uniformity, that is what the real gesture about the ICSI is, that is they will actually see each and every person or each and every organization in a very good manner. So that is the reason they actually go with the standard. Next one is the SSB formulates secretarial standards taking into consideration the applicable law. You are supposed to always consider the law, the usage, the business environmental practical abilities, applicabilities, and the best secretarial practice prevalent, that is secretarial standards are developed. Now in a transparent manner you are supposed to have, after extensive deliberations, analysis, research, you are supposed to go with it. You can't just go just like that, you are supposed to go for a analysis and research. After taking views of corporate regulators and the public at large, you are supposed to make all the necessary things or alter the things. See, here what happens is you are going for the betterment of the stakeholders, the corporate, the organization. So what is that you should do is, you should always have a check whether what you are doing is benefiting them or not. Next is procedure for issuing secretarial standards. When you go with this, this is a 15 marks question. How many marks? 15 marks question. The first one is, SSB in consultation with the council shall determine the areas in which secretarial standard need to be formulated and the priority in regard to the selection thereof. That means you are supposed to check what is good for them and then you are supposed to do it. In the preparation of secretarial standards, SSB may constitute working groups to formulate preliminary draft of the proposed standard. That is a second one. The third one is the preliminary draft. Now from the preliminary draft, it actually comes here, the preliminary draft of the secretarial standard prepared by the working group shall be circulated amongst the members of SSB for discussion and shall be modified appropriately if so required. Now here if you go one by one, please understand, in the first one SSB, now in consultation with the council, shall determine the areas in which SS, that is secretarial standard, need to be formulated. Now that is one. Second is you will actually go with the working group to formulate the preliminary draft. After that, the preliminary draft is done, you will again give it to all the people so that they can discuss if there is any modification to be done or not. Fourth one here, this is a very important topic, that is the fourth one here, that is a preliminary draft then, right, be circulated to the members of the central council as well as the chairman of regional council, that is a chapter of ICSI. Various professional bodies will be there, chambers of commerce will be there, regulatory authorities such as the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, the Department of Economic Affairs, the Securities and Exchange Board of India, that is SEBI, will also be there. Reserve Bank of India is also there, Department of Public Enterprises, and to such other bodies, organization has maybe decided by SSB. Everywhere you are supposed to circulate those things. The fifth one is on the basis of preliminary draft and the discussion with the body's organization. The body's organization is all these people, right? Draft will be prepared and published in the chartered secretary, that is a CS chartered secretary. You have the chapter, you are supposed to go with that. Next is when you go with that, the sixth one is the draft of the proposed secretarial standard will generally include the following. The first one is concept and fundamental principles relating to the subject of the standard, what exactly it should be. Definition and explanation of the term used in the standard. Now what all you have explained them, you are supposed to draft it properly. Objective of issuing the standard, disclosure which is required, and the date from which the standard will be effective, even that should be mentioned in the secretarial standards. And last two here you need to understand is After getting everything done, now why you are doing it, what is the purpose, what is the modification, each and everything, after taking into consideration the comments received, the draft of the proposed secretarial standards will be finalized by the SSB. Will be finalized by whom? The SSB, that is the Secretarial Standard Board, and submitted to the Council of ICSI. And the last one is the Council will consider the final draft of the proposed Secretarial Standard and finalize the same in the consultation with SSB. Now the Secretarial Standard on the relevant subject will then be issued under the authority of the Council. This is what are the steps which you are supposed to follow, that is the procedure to follow as well as to issue the Secretarial Standard. Next one is compliance with the Secretarial Standards. When we go with the compliance here, what exactly happens is we need to understand the sections here very carefully. If you are not able to understand the section, please do not write the sections. Now the section 118 subsection 10 on the Companies Act 2013 requires every company to observe the secretarial standards. They want each and every company to know about it. With respect to the board meeting and general meeting specified by the Institute of Company Secretary of India and approved as such by the central government itself, the adoption of the secretarial standard, that is SS, the adoption here of the SS by the corporate sector will have substantial value addition to the quality of secretarial practice followed, making them comparable with the best in the world. That is how they'll go with that. As they want that Indian company secretaryship to be the standard and it should be the #1 in the entire world. The company secretary in employment as well as in practice are entrusted to ensure the compliance of applicable secretarial standard. Now here what happens is, when they will draft each and everything, you are supposed to also tell this to the secretaries, and then what happens is the company secretary in employment as well as in the practice are entrusted to ensure the compliance of applicable secretarial standard. They should know each and everything, they should compliance each and everything. The last one is the secretarial audit report. This can come for 5 marks, which we are expecting. The first one here is, it shall be prepared by whom? By the company secretary in practice. It shall be prepared in the form MR3. Now last session I told you what is the form MR3. Annexed with the board's report considering the increasing importance of corporate governance. That is the reason we actually prepare the secretarial audit. Any doubt regarding the company law and secretarial practice, please be very free to ask us. We are always there to help you. Thank you so much. I'll see you when I see you.